centers on here, which we're so excited for. Karen is here. Karen's the team leader over in Mount Pleasant. I'm the team leader over in West Ashley. We have an amazing ALC here. We have some on Zoom. We have some here in person at West Ashley. And we are just ready to learn from you. So
Good.
we are really thankful for you to be here. Thank you.
And do most of us have the Six Personal Perspectives manual? Do we all have the manual? Because I did not do a PowerPoint. We're just going to sort of teach them. Got the manual, okay?
Yes.
And everybody's got their, okay, good. All
So
right.
everybody's got the agenda that I shot over to you after, very similar to the one that we talked about, and they've got their six personal perspectives manual and a multi-year trends.
Awesome. And by the way, so let's make sure we're on the same page, Vince. So I'm thrilled with what you're going to do. I looked at your packet and it looks great. You and Karen, I think, are going to have a fabulous day today. I don't want to take away a lot of your time. Knowing how long this, I mean, what were your, I mean, you know me, I could talk for the whole 4 hours, but the last thing you want to do is hear me for 4 hours. So are we looking at maybe an hour for me, or what's the perfect world? Actually, you've got
an hour to an hour 15, somewhere around there.
Lots to cover. So I'm going to probably go fairly quickly so you can jump into all your good stuff. So, all right. So good morning, everyone. First, thank you for inviting me to come. Thank you. Second, for giving me the greatest gift you can give to anyone is just your willingness to listen. And number three, the biggest thank you is your willingness to serve on the Agent Leadership Council. So my name is Holly Prescott. I know some of you. I miss coming to the Carolinas. I've been with Keller Williams since 1999. As I said, I was 10 when I joined Keller Williams. I was a team leader for 12 years, 3 different locations, Flower Mound, Texas, Vail, Colorado, and then the last 3 years in Asheville, North Carolina. When I decided to step down as being a team leader, I founded a company called Carolinas Educational Services. And hopefully all of you are very aware of Carolinas Educational Services. And Karen and Vince, if they are not, I'm going to challenge you in 2021 to make sure that they're all very aware of the great training opportunity they get. Tammy Youngst purchased that company from me 3 years ago and is doing a fabulous job with it. I'm also Keller Williams Master Faculty, and I'm the proud wife of a gentleman that some of you may know named John Prescott, who for 6 years served as the director of BOLD. So I'm very thrilled to be here. Again, I have been teaching the ALC clinic since 2001. The first ALC clinic didn't look anything like what you heard probably a few months ago. And we're going to talk about the difference. I believe that the concept of the ALC is probably one of the most important things that separates us from all the other companies. And I believe that for 3 reasons. Number one, because it's the one concept that companies are not trying to copy. You know, they're copying our profit share, they're copying our training, you know, they're copying a lot of things, but to my knowledge, and maybe I'm wrong, but to my knowledge and my study of competition, we do not have another concept called the Agent Leadership Council. The second reason I believe that the ALC is so important is because it keeps your team leaders and your leadership in touch with the top 20%. See, Mo Anderson, of course, the heart of our company, and of course, the creator really of the ALC, believes that the ALC should be considered teachers' pets. I love that, teachers' pets. She believes that if we're meeting the needs of the top 20%, we will certainly be meeting the needs of the rest of the market center. And the third reason I think it's so important is because, quite frankly, the ALC develops the personality of a market center. Have you all ever heard the statement, if you want to get to know someone, get to know their 5 best friends? Well, I'm a firm believer that if you want to get to know a market center, you get to know the ALC. So before there's a couple things that, you know, when Joseph and Vince asked me to speak, of course, they sort of gave me this broad topic. They said, well, we want you to talk about leadership. Well, pretty broad topic, right? And there are tons and tons of great leadership books out there. I've read a lot of them, Ken Blanchard, John Maxwell, all of that good stuff. However, I really believe the greatest lesson in leadership is right at our fingertips. And that's the 6 personal perspectives. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the reasons Gary Keller created the ALC, and then how the 6 personal perspectives correspond with that. Now, before we do that, I want to ask you all a question, and I want you to write down your answer, and then I want to hear from some of you. I want to hear your thoughts. What is I want you to write down the answer to this question from what you know right now. And by the way, let me back up a second. How many of you are serving on the ALC for the first time? Let's see, just raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. All right, so quite frankly, children, you don't even know what you've signed up for, right? All right, so I get it, I get it. But here's what I'd like from your knowledge of the ALC today. If you could identify the number 1 responsibility you have as an ALC member, I want you to write that down. What is if I ask you, what's the number 1 responsibility you have? What would that be? Write it down. What's your number 1 responsibility? And by the way, Karen and Vince, I want you to answer that question too. What do you believe your ALC members' number 1 responsibility is also? Because we've got to get everyone on the same page, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, by the way, there will be no wrong answers. Well, that's not true. I suppose a wrong answer would be, well, I want to be telling the team leaders what to do every day with their job. I mean, that's not the responsibility of the ALC, right? It might be what you want to do, but that's a wrong answer. But again, probably I will hear no wrong answers, but just let me hear some of the answers. Someone share with me what you wrote down.
Engagement from the rest of the market center.
Could you hear that, Howie?
I heard engagement.
Engagement from the rest of the market center is what Jürgen said.
Okay, all right. What else?
Maintaining our current market center culture.
Maintaining our current market center culture.
Maintaining our culture. All right.
Learn to improve.
Learn to improve.
Learn to improve. Okay, good.
To help and serve others while growing my own business.
To help and serve others while growing my own business.
Okay. Couple more.
Protect the ability for the market center to profit share.
All right, good. Give me one more.
Hi, IME says just love on people and just lead in a way that, you know, we can improve as ALC members and therefore other people improve with their business.
Good. All good answers, Now let me tell you the answer that Mo Anderson would give you if we ask her that question. She says that the number 1 responsibility of an ALC member is to be a role model for the rest of the office. A role model. Now, if you think about all the answers that we heard, it probably encompasses all of those. However, being a role model starts with who? You. See, I asked Vince, I said, I said, Vince, I said, do you, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Karen, so maybe, Karen can answer this question too. I said, when your ALC members took the ALC clinic, did they hear that being on the ALC is about them? It's not about, it's not necessarily about the rest of the office. It's about you. And I'm going to bring that home, because one of the things I asked Vince if I could share are the 4 reasons that Gary Keller really created the ALC. Because this used to be in the ALC clinic, and for some reason they've taken it out. And I think before we can even talk about the ALC clinic or talk about planning your year or planning what your experience on the ALC is going to look like, we've got to get clarity around why Gary created the ALC. Now, keep in mind, back in the old days, back in the 2000s, when I started teaching the ALC clinic, I'll be honest with you, what I taught was an absolute, what I call a should fest. SHOULD, should fest. I literally was teaching, you should help all the agents. You should love on all the agents. You should. In fact, quite frankly, for a number of years, I do believe that ALC members may have felt like unpaid help. Now, Susie's kind of nodding her head a little bit. Can you remember? Can you remember those days?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then what happened was in 2007, when the market shifted and our world sort of started rattling a little bit, we all were forced to come back to the basics. And Mo Anderson was no different. She said, okay, we've got to come back to the basics with the ALC. And she sat down with Gary and she said, Gary, why did you create the ALC? And so I'm going to give you now, and by the way, this is in your packet. So pull out your packet. I'm going to give you the 4 reasons that Gary said he intended, the reasons he created the ALC in the first place. So the first reason is for team leaders to hang out with their top people. See, at the end of the day, it's about the team leader knowing the needs of the top 20%. And as our market centers were getting bigger and bigger and bigger, we all know it's so easy to sort of just get disconnected. So the role of the team leader is once a month to sit down with you and help you hit your goals. Find out what your challenges are. Find out what the market center needs to help you. Because if we're helping you, then guess what? The rest of the market center will be helped. Now, it's also an opportunity for all of you to hang out and connect with the top 20%. Eagles attract eagles. It's a great opportunity for you to mastermind, for you to share ideas, for you to be connected with each other, for you to become friends. We hope at the end of the year, your group will end up having a whole new relationship, that you'll actually really connect with each other at a high level. So that was the number 1 reason that Gary wanted to have an ALC, for the team leaders to stay connected with the top people and for you all to be connected with each other. Now, the second reason, of course, is to help develop your leadership skills. This is called the Agent Leadership Council. This is not called the Agent Gripe Session Council. This is not called the Agent, I'm going to help everybody else be successful. And don't get me wrong, I want you all loving on all the rest of the agents. I want exactly what Susie said. I want you to love on them. However, what I see too often is ALC members that hide behind trying to fix everybody else rather than being willing to share themselves and improve their business so that they can be that role model that Mo wants them to be. So the second reason is to develop your leadership skills. And of course, one of the greatest ways that Mo felt that could take place would be asking you to chair a committee. Now, please understand, it's not because we think you have nothing else to do. And quite frankly, chairing a committee is not doing the team leader's job or doing the staff's job. Chairing a committee is an opportunity to help yourselves. If you're the chairman of the career development committee, great, then you've got the opportunity to bring in training that the top 20% needs that will impact everyone else. If you're the chairman of the finance committee, absolutely, you're the keeper of the budget. You're watching how the market center is spending money. However, and I know you're going to be talking a bit about this later, the number one role of the finance committee is making sure that all the ALC members have P&L and balance sheets and budgets. So again, serving and chairing a committee is to benefit you, not just everybody else. If it benefits you, it will benefit them. And of course, we also know that, if you wake up in the morning, you're a leader. If you work with a buyer, you're a leader. Work with a seller, you're a leader. If you're a parent, you're a leader. If you're a spouse, you're a leader. So Gary believes that the world needed great leaders, and the Agent Leadership Council was a fabulous opportunity to develop that. Now, the third reason that he created the ALC was, quite frankly, so that you all would get your unfair share of the gift. Let me give you a little history. Some of you may have heard this story before. Susie probably has. If Maggie's on, I'm sure Joseph has. But so, back in the late 80s, Gary created Gary and drawing a blank, Williams. Anyway.
Joe.
Thank you. Created Keller Williams. And they very quickly became number one in the Austin area. And then in comes a new concept called what? Who was the concept that came and stole his agents?
Remax.
Thank you, dear. Absolutely, Remax. And Gary just flat out didn't like that. So he called together his top 12 agents and asked a very important question. What would it take to create a market center that you would never leave? And he stood up there in front of the room with a flip chart and he made a list. They want the training. They want the support. But they sure like that new 100% concept. And just when Gary thought that the list was done, an agent named Gary Gentry, who is still with us today, said, I want a piece of the action. If you want us to stay forever, then we want a piece of the profit. Up to this point, we all know that most real estate companies, the only people that made profit were the owners. Well, Gary Gentry was wise enough to say, we want a piece of that. So Gary went back to the drawing board and created the profit share system at the request of his first wasn't necessarily called the ALC at that time, but it was the first group of his top agents. Now, the reason he did that was because he truly believed that the 80-20 principle was alive and well when it came to profit share. And he did it for his top 20% because he really intended that 80% of the profit share would go to the top 20%. He believed that the top 20% did the most transactions so that you all have the most connection with agents. He believed that the 80% had the most influence in the community. And he believed that the top, the top 20% would have the most incentive to develop other people and would want to build profit share, quite frankly, for their families and for the legacy. So Vince, how much money did your market center make in profit share last year?
We shared $63,000.
How much?
63,000.
All right, so what's 80% of, someone do the math for me. What's 80% of 63,000?
48,000.
Okay,
48,000.
28,000. Keep that,
40.
what? All right, 48,000. Okay, keep that in mind. Karen, what did your market center do in profit share last year?
I'm hunting for it right now. Let's see. 150. I'm sorry. That's not right, is it? Yes. $153,791.
Okay, so what's 80% of that?
123.20.
123.20. Now, in your packets, I'm not, and again, your team leaders are going to be covering this later today, but in your packets, I have asked them to share with you how much money the top 20% made in profit share last year. And quite frankly, we need to help you. We're now again, maybe 80-20, maybe 80% is an unrealistic goal. However, at the end of the day, Gary created profit share for you because he wanted you to leave that legacy with your family. He wanted you to have passive income so that someday if you decided that you wanted to go sail around the world, you'd still have money coming in. So one of the responsibilities that I saw on your covenant agreements was to give your team leader one warm lead a month. Now, quite frankly, I'm going to be honest with you, that's a very easy goal. Well, it's not ambitious. I teach a lot of these ALC clinics and I see 3 leads a month. I see 5 leads a month. Your team leaders are quite frankly giving you a break. But let me share with you, if you do intend on building your profit share tree, and again, you'll have a long discussion about this later. I don't want to get too into this. Now, one thing I was for about 6 years, I was a MAPS coach and I coached team leaders. And a good conversion rate for a team leader was 30%. 30% of the appointments that they had actually joined. So let's say you follow your covenant agreement and you give one warm lead a month. Well, hopefully if I don't know what the percentages are with your team leaders now, but hopefully you'll get 3 recruits from that, hopefully. But again, the point is the more leads you give them, this is no different than our real estate business, the more names you give them, the more opportunity you have. And I want to end the discussion on profit share by saying, don't look at this as recruiting. Look at this as changing someone's life. Every single one of you are with Keller Williams because someone cared enough about you to say, would you mind talking to my team leader? Every single one of you. No one can join this company without someone being responsible. So again, as your team leaders focus on this concept of passive income and profit share, please understand that the reason is because that was Gary's intention. That's what he wanted for the ALC. So he's hoping that your ALC meetings will be a discussion of people that you have referred to them or people that you think would be a good fit for Keller Williams. And then, of course, the 4th reason that Gary Keller created the ALC was to increase your production. At the end of the day, the last thing Gary wanted was for you to go, oh my gosh, being on the ALC last year really screwed up my business. Being on the ALC was a burden. Being on the ALC took me away from my lead generation. No, that is never the intention. Never the intention. Being on a committee hurt my business. No. So again, we're going to talk about how do we make Gary's reasons for being on the ALC? How do we make it so that because of these reasons, being on the ALC becomes not just a responsibility, but an opportunity? See, that's at the end of the day, what we want for you is to go that being on the ALC in 2021 was one of the greatest opportunities I had to hang out with top people, to develop my leadership skills, to build my passive income for myself and for my family, and change lives along the way. And then, of course, my business increased because I was on the ALC. So now what I want to do is I want to jump into how studying these 6 personal perspectives is going to coincide with this. But before I do that, let me have some ahas. What did we learn so far in the first 30 minutes by talking about the reasons Gary created the ALC? Any surprises here? Any new revelations? Give me a couple ahas.
I didn't realize profit share was such a big element of this.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, but Vince, have to help me.
Patty said, I didn't realize that profit share was such a big element of this.
Big element. Absolutely. Thank you. Good. And by the way, Patty, thank you for that. This is not about Vince or Karen needing more names to call. This is about helping you build your passive income. I want to emphasize that. Now, granted, it helps Vince and Karen. However, what is it Jerry Maguire says? Help me help you, right? Or whatever he said in the movie. All right, a couple more ahas. What else have we learned so far?
I guess I never really considered the fact that other brokerages or market centers didn't have ALC types set up. I mean, I think about it now, I'm like, well, that's obvious. I know that, but I never really thought it through to that point.
Yeah. Could you hear that, Holly?
Absolutely. And quite frankly, a lot of companies don't want to know what their agents think. They're handing them, this is how you're going to do your business, period, the end, and that's it. They figure that's enough. Thank you. Great one. All right, a couple more.
I would piggyback on that. I think when you started, Holly, for me, a big aha was because you see a lot of companies kind of copying profit share, copying the concept of teams, copying this, that, or the other thing, expansion. But the only thing that they're not copying is probably the heart and soul of the culture of KW, which is the ALC. It's a really good point.
Right. All right, I've heard everything from West Ashley. Let me hear from at least 1 or 2 from Mount Pleasant. Make sure I've got you all with me. Make sure that you're getting it. I can wait, children.
The idea of just focusing on growth for our businesses what struck me as important.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit about this as we move through the 6 personal perspectives. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you. All right, one more from from Mount Pleasant. One more.
Okay, I'll go. For me, I really didn't know what ALC was. I mean, I thought they were on payroll, and, they were special. I knew that, but so the AHA for me is what it actually stands for and what ALC actually do for the market center,
Right.
and what the benefits for them as well. So
For you.
yes, for me.
Again, see, if we focus on you, then that automatically filters down to the market center.
Right.
When I want to go back to what Mo said, your number one responsibility is being a role model. And I want to give you kind of a funny analogy. What if there was a market center with 100 agents and you were cloned and all the agents were you, what would that market center look like? Now, Vince sent me some of the production of some of you all, and quite frankly, I'm real clear that, oh my gosh, it would be a hugely successful market center. However, high production doesn't necessarily make you a role model. Does that make sense? So again, the thing to keep in mind here is that the reason we're focusing on you is because everyone is watching the ALC. Everyone is watching you. And if you set the right example, everyone will rise to that occasion. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, now let's talk a little bit about why I think the greatest leadership lessons we can learn are right at our fingertips, and that is through the 6 personal perspectives. So I want you to turn, if you've all got manuals, I want you to turn to the very first page. It doesn't look like it's got a page number on, but it says the 6 personal perspectives defined. It's got a picture of Gary Keller at the bottom. Everybody find it? Give me a thumbs up, give me a nod, give me whatever. Okay, got it. All right. Okay, let me ask you this. So how many of you have taken the full version class of 6 personal perspectives? Let's see some hand raising. Okay, pretty good. Pretty good. Got a couple here. All right, let's say it again. All right, good, 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 good. Well, I'm going to encourage Karen and Vince. This class, when I was a team leader, my commitment was to teach this class at least once a quarter, even if only one person showed up. Because at the end of the day, this is the foundational way that these 6 personal perspectives back in the day, back in the early 2000s, used to be taught before every single class. It was just our language. It was just the way that Gary, before he taught us how to go on the first listing appointment, he wanted our heads in the game. Because here's what Gary says on this first page. He says, he asked top achievers a question. What is it that differentiates those who achieve at the highest level from those who don't seem to accomplish as much? And his answer down at the bottom of the page, he says, when you interview the very top people and ask them their biggest challenge, it's invariably they will say mindset. Keeping it strong, focused, and positive amid the many challenges they encounter every day on their way to a top. Gary continues, life is an inside to outside experience. When you get this at a deep level, you realize that who you are inside determines and drives what you are outside. The very best achievers know this and therefore truly work on and protect their mindset. See, what the world sees of you is who you are on the outside. What the market center sees is who you are on the outside. However, who you are on the outside is driven by who you are on the inside. So one of the opportunities, I believe, to be on the ALC is to give you that opportunity to develop that mindset, to go into that ALC meeting knowing if you're really having a tough day, or if you're really struggling in some area of your business, or maybe even in some area of your life. You've got a place to go where you can get support. You've got a group of people around you that, as Susie said, love you so much that they're willing to help you in any way, shape, or form. Mo Anderson says that the best ALC meeting she ever went to was a meeting where everyone went around the room and they were talking about their production, and almost everybody in the room was hitting their goals except for one person, and his name was Joe. And Mo Anderson said that the team leader took the agenda, ripped it up, and said, this meeting is going to now be all about Joe. How do we help Joe get back on track? How can we be there for Joe to help him at his time of need? And she said it was the best ALC meeting she'd ever been to. So that's what we want our ALC meetings to be about, helping you with mindset. All right. So the 6 personal perspectives are outlined on the next page, on page 9. We're going to talk about committing to self-mastery, committing to the 80-20 principle, moving from E to P in your role as an ALC member, being learning-based. I'm very excited about that because you've got a number of things on your covenant agreement. So obviously your team leaders are very committed to keeping you learning-based, removing limiting beliefs, and holding you accountable. All right, so let's jump into self-mastery. Actually, you know what? I want to do an exercise first. Turn to page 13. Let's do a reality check. Let's see where we are right now. I'm going to change it just a little bit, because I want the first circle, I want you, it says, what is your goal? I want you to write down what was your goal in 2020. What was your goal in 2020? And I want you to put it in that circle right there. And this can be your production goal. This could be whatever goal just jumps out at you. What was your goal in 2020? Then I want you to add in the next circle where it says, how are you doing with your goal? I want you to answer the question, how did you do with that goal? And the next question says, all right, so how did you feel about that? If you hit your goals and went way past it, you had an awesome year. It was a great year. And the last thing says, what will your future look like if you do not, what did your future look like if you did not hit your goal? Or let's think about this year. What is your future going to look like this year if you don't hit your goal? All right, who's willing to share what they wrote? Remember, these are now your newest best friends. These are going to be people that you're going to meet with every month to support you, to love you, to help you. Who's willing to share what they wrote?
John Joe, you want to share?
Well, in bold 2019, I had 42. She's asking for 2020, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I had 42 deals in bold. I wrote down, I did 43. How'd I feel? I just put very thankful. And if I didn't do it, I wouldn't feel much different.
Well, that's quite
unfortunate.
So what I heard was your goal was what, 42?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did, what you actually did was?
I did 43.
40? Okay.
43.
43. So you hit your goal and passed it by 1, right? Awesome. And so you felt great about that. And your future looks bright because you know you can hit your goal. Absolutely. Great. Thank you. All right. Give me one more.
Mine wasn't number based. Mine was more about what I wanted to do as far as building my business. And Vince and I've talked about this in some of our meetings. I had a goal of having better systems in place, and I did not do a very good job of that. And I think that colors the way that I feel about the sustainability about my business. And so it makes me feel like I'm not going to be able to maintain the rate that I'm going. And so it makes me feel like my future is uncertain until I can get those nailed down.
Thank you so much for your honesty, because I'm going to tell you, you are probably not alone in that. See, wouldn't that be a topic of conversation where everyone could support her in an ALC meeting? See, this information is important, first for you to acknowledge, and second, to share with your newest best friends so that they can help you, so that 2021 doesn't end up the same way as 2020. Thank you so much for your honesty. So good job. Good job. Anyone else? Give me one more. Give me a Mount Pleasant.
Holly, I want to share just because I think this is the group of people that I think are role models in the Market Center and have really impressed me, and I know they're looked up to. And so I want them to know that I'm extremely grateful for them. My 2020 goal that came out of Bold was a Keller Williams leadership role where I could have a huge impact on others. So here I am, and I feel excited, motivated, and inspired, and just sitting here on the Zoom camera, seeing everyone's faces and going through this process. I'm grateful and blessed.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Good job. All right, now let's jump into the first perspective. Turn to page, let's see, well, again, there's no page number on this, but let's see, it will be the page before. It's supposed to be page 17. It says, step 1, commit to self-mastery. So the first thing I want to define is based on, if you're committing to self-mastery, right in the middle of the page, it says you are willing, you know your goals, you know your strengths and weaknesses, and you know how to work with both your strengths and weaknesses to seek and master the necessary knowledge, skills, and habits to reach your goals. See, mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits. Self-mastery is the possession of great knowledge, skills, and habits that make you the master of you. Now, the reason this is significant in the ALC is because, again, as we've talked about, your ALC meetings are now masterminds. It's important that you know each other, know your strengths, know your challenges. One of the things that you're going to be talking about moving forward, and I'm thrilled to see that Vince did it and I'm sure Karen did it too, is all of you were asked to take the DISC. Because again, we're not all the same. We're not all the same. For instance, if you're in if you've got someone in a meeting and they're struggling with their business, well, let's see, this was fun. Telling someone like the Greg Flanagan, who's a DI, to sit behind a computer and enter his database is not going to go well, right? And yet then let's say someone like Patty, who's an SC, telling her to go knock on doors or telling her to go, call FSBO's mayor. Not that she won't do it, but it may not be her favorite thing to do, right? So this is why understanding behavioral styles is so important, so that we can help people develop their business in a way that works for them. Who was my cute little girl that said that they were struggling with their systems? What's her name? Because her name doesn't come up on
Stella.
What?
Stella.
Stella. All right. So see, Stella is an she's an ISC.
ISC.
So Stella loves people. She's steady, great listener, but systems and detailing, she's a C. That's probably, even though her C is above the line, it's probably not her favorite thing to do. I guarantee you, if I got back into real estate right now, I am a DI. The first thing I would have to do is hire a great detailed SC to keep me straight. Because the last thing I want to do is sit down behind my computer and enter my database. That's a lot. I want to talk to more people.
You're a DI.
Yeah. So the point is, this is why this concept of self-mastery is so important, because if we're going to help each other, we've got to know our goals, know our strengths and weaknesses, and then help each other work with both. So committing to self-mastery, committing to being willing to truly know yourself and know each other is going to be a major part of being on the ALC. Now, the second, the second is, please turn to page. No, okay, let's see, another no page number on this. Let's turn to page 27. The second is committing to the 80-20 principle. Now, we all know, or if we don't know, let me just give you a brief. Right there on page 27 in the center is sort of the definition of the 80-20 principle. 20% of our actions give us 80% of our results. And here's what Gary says about that in that box at the second paragraph. The idea that the 20% of your actions lead to 80% of your results may be one of the most powerful principles you can apply to your life. It's about getting the most from your time and effort. It's about maximizing your results. It's about having focus. Focus is the key to great success, more than effort, experience, or even natural ability. It says, look at the highest achievers in any field and you'll discover that you have powerful focus. Just as importantly, you'll learn that they focus on the right things, the handful of truly important issues that make the biggest difference. Now, how does this apply to being on the ALC? Well, there's a 20% to each one of those 4 reasons. There's a 20%. What is the 20% that will give you the greatest results when you go to an ALC meeting? Well, the first part of the 20% is you got to show up, right? You got to go to the ALC meeting. Then the 20% of leadership is, all right, creating a committee. The 20% of profit share might be, actually talking to some of your co-op agents about Keller Williams, giving Vince names. And of course, we all know the 20% of our business is leads, listings, and leverage. That's straight from the MREA book. So understanding this 80-20 principle is imperative if you're going to make the reasons Gary created the ALC a reality. And then over on page 31, we talk about the fact that the 20% doesn't go far enough. We need to go extreme. This is all from the one thing. 20% of 20% of 20 is 5, and then 20% is 1. There's one thing that is really the most important. So what I want you to do just real quickly, and you can discuss this later, but go back to the reasons that Gary created the ALC. And I want you to write down one thing that you believe you could do to make sure that you're connected with your team, with your group, or one thing that you could do to improve your leadership skills, or one thing you could do to get a bigger share of the gift, and one thing through the ALC. I want one thing that you believe the ALC can help you with, or one thing that you can do as an ALC member. If you were going to role model these 4 things for everyone else in the market center, what one thing do you think you could do?
Yeah, so like one thing of the 4 in your agenda packet.
Yep. I want you to write, there'll be 4 things you'll write down, but I want you to write one thing next to each one of those reasons. If you are role modeling the market center, what one thing could you do to role model your ALC meeting, being a mastermind, your unfair share of the gift, your production?
You're back into this right here in this one. There's the 4 reasons that the ALC was created. You're just writing next to each one of those 4, the one.
Just one thing.
One thing in each one of those categories that you can do to make those things come to fruition for you.
Just to do within that, the ALC, or
Yes.
is it bigger than that? It's just what we can do.
Yeah, what we
within
can-
this group.
Yes, absolutely. And then like for number 4, to increase your productivity, right? That's going to be about like the one thing in your business that you can do such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier and unnecessary.
But that doesn't relate to this group.
Not really, it does
That's
because it helps
personal.
this come to fruition, but it's for you. Yeah.
And by the way, something that you're going to be willing to share with the rest of the group so that they can hold you accountable. We'll talk about that a little bit later. All I want you to do is pick that, go extreme with this. Because what I'm hoping will happen, Vince and Karen, is maybe at the end of your session today, you take them back to this. And you're able then to create sort of a plan on how we're going to make sure that being on the ALC is a great experience for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Kelly, tell us what. That's 12-month profit.
It's in that package, your last profit, is how much you've made in profit share over the last 12 months in this package. It'll tell you how many people you currently have in your first level downline and what your year-to-date profit share was, meaning 2020 profit share.
How do we add that up at the end of next year so it's more that looking like the 80% rather than the 20%? Wow. All right. Everybody got it?
I think so.
All right. How we doing up there? Everybody okay at Mount Pleasant? Give me a thumbs up if you've all got one thing. See a few folks still writing. So look up when you're done. Awesome. All right, let's move to the third perspective, moving from E to P. Moving from the, and turn to, let's see, let's turn again to page 4, just like we're flying through this class, turn to page 49. Moving from E to P, from our entrepreneurial way of doing things, the way we've always done things, to being on purpose. Leaders are always looking for a better way. How many of you all think right now you might be hitting some sort of a ceiling in your business? Nobody.
Oh, I am.
Thank you, Susie. All right, I got one honest person in the group. Anybody else hitting a ceiling?
Trenton said he was.
Hey, Trenton, good for you. Congratulations, because guess what? That's a good thing. The only way that you hit a ceiling is if you're going what direction? Up. You're not hitting a ceiling if you're staying in the safe zone, if you're sort of doing things the way you've always done it. See, highly successful people are always going to be hitting ceilings. And when they hit that ceiling, the great news is with Keller Williams, there's always a system, a model, or a tool that we can follow to break through that ceiling so that then that ceiling becomes your floor. And then you're on the way to what? The next ceiling. So don't be afraid to hit ceilings, because sometimes we don't make the necessary changes until our head hurts enough from hitting that ceiling, right? You know, this definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. You know, 43 transactions might be awesome for you last year, but all right, now who is my friend up there in the front that I'm looking at right now? How many deals do you want to do
Joe,
in 2021?
how many do you want to do in 2021?
50.
50.
All right, so are you going to do the exact same thing in 2021 that you did in 2020 to hit that 50? Are you going to have? I love it. The point is, chances are if you want to move up, you're going to have to do something different. And of course, that's what we all avoid is change, right? Moving from E to P requires change. And that's what being on the ALC is going to be all about this year, because I can assure you, it's going to be a change for some of you to come to an ALC meeting, open yourselves up, be willing to share your production, be willing to talk about your challenges. It's going to be a change for some of you to start really thinking about profit share, really giving Karen and Vince referrals. It's going to be a change for you some of you to lead a committee and be able to let go and let people do things for you, not necessarily doing it all yourself. Aren't we all I mean, I'm a control freak. I know it. You know, I mean, one of the biggest complaints I hear from committee chairmen is, well, I had to do it all myself. Well, then the question I ask is, did you allow other people to help you? So being on the ALC is probably going to force some of you to move from E to P, to go from the entrepreneurial style you've always done to being on purpose and doing something different. And on page 51, there's a model to follow when you do want to move to being on purpose. It's about focus. It's about finding options. It's about finding models to follow. You know, if I were interested in building my profit share and making more money, I'd find my top profit share earner in the market center and go, so tell me, how did you make all this money in profit share? What did you do? Did you go shove someone against the wall and say, if you don't join, I'm going to shoot you? Probably not, right? So look for models to follow. And then install systems and bring in accountability. And we're going to talk more about accountability. So understand that being on the ALC is probably going to require you to move from E to P if we want Gary's reasons for the ALC to become reality. And then step perspective number 4 is being learning based. Turn to page 55. And again, I'm very excited because on your covenant agreement, which hopefully you all have signed. Has everyone signed the covenant agreement? Yep. Under training, you've got a very healthy list there. Attend the ALC clinic. Attend family reunion coming up right around the corner, right? At least one regional covenant class per year. Be open, this is a biggie for me, be open to teaching or hosting trainings and masterminds. Why do we ask you to teach? Because if you truly want to master something, what do? We teach it. We teach it. The reason I teach Train the Presenter, my favorite class to teach is Train the Presenter. And I've been teaching for Keller Williams since 2001, is because I want to continually get better. So teach it to master it. Attending business planning clinic. Now, let me ask you a question. How many of you took business planning clinic this year and have a business plan for 2021? Okay, I'm seeing one thumbs up. Raise your hand. Okay. All right, so Karen, I see a lot of people who have not raised their hand. Here's the deal, sweetheart. It's never too late to offer a business planning clinic. In fact, many market centers will do a business planning clinic just for their ALC. That becomes an ALC meeting. That takes the place of an ALC meeting. So if your ALC does not have a business plan, what is it Gary says? If we don't know where we're going, we're never going to get there, right? So don't think it's, even though we recommend you do it in October, there's no reason why you can't do it right now. Just a suggestion. And then attend Bold once a year. Well, hopefully Bold comes back in some way, shape, or form. But the point is, highly successful people are learning based. Leaders are learners. Leaders are the first people to sign up for a class. Leaders sit in the front row. Leaders are the people who are the role model. If the market center sees you going to classes, sees you attending family reunions, sees you participating in learning based activities, they're going to say, wow, I need to do that too. This is probably one of the greatest areas you can be a role model to your market center. So being learning based. All right, the fifth, and of course in the book, it's got all the things, the potential classes you can take. And hopefully all of you are participating in all the CES classes that you're being provided. Put a little shameless plug in on that one. All right, so the fifth perspective, turn to page, let's see, again, no page number, but this would be on page 77, removing your limiting beliefs. So I am certain if you look at your covenant agreement, some of you are probably going to have some limiting beliefs about that. Do they have their covenant agreement in front of them?
They don't, no.
No.
But they all signed it, and I'll get them a copy.
Okay, it's no big deal, but yes, they all should have a copy of what they've signed, because you know there are a lot of things that you are agreeing to, and hopefully you remember what you agreed to. And when you read this, you may go, "Gosh, how am I going to get all this done?" Well, that's a limiting belief. An unlimited belief would be, if I concentrate on getting these things done, it will improve my business. It will improve my experience being on the ALC. It will help other ALC members. It will help me build my downline. We all have limited beliefs. No one is immune from them. I don't care how successful you are. I don't care how productive you are. Limiting beliefs show up. The issue is that you don't have limiting beliefs. The issue is, what do you do with those limiting beliefs when they raise their ugly head? See, I even told Gary he ought to change this. I don't like step 5 saying removing your limited belief, because I don't think you remove them. I think the real word there is control the limiting beliefs. And again, that's what being on the ALC is going to be all about for you. It's going to be helping you control those limiting beliefs when they show up on the scene, because they will. Vince, I can't give you a lead every month. Well, the question is, who have I talked to recently that even has expressed an interest in real estate? Gosh, yes, I can get. I mean, how many of your clients say to you, gosh, I've always thought about being in real estate? You know, the lead you give Vince and Karen doesn't necessarily have to be a top producer. They'll take any lead you can get, right? Is that a fair statement, Karen and Vince?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
the point is, a limited belief is there's no way I can give them one lead a month. When the truth is, you all are out amongst people all day long. And what a great profession we have right now. And then, of course, the last one, the last perspective is, of course, my favorite, which is, and please turn to page 83. And I think this is the one that speaks the most to being on the ALC, and that is, leaders are willing to be accountable. John Maxwell did a survey of the top 25 CEOs in the country. And he found that they all had 2 things in common. One was they all set goals. And number 2 was they all allowed someone to hold them accountable to those goals. Gary says it so clearly in the MREA book. I still have, Susie, my beat up MREA book that's now just falling apart, but it's still with me. Here's what Gary says. Accountability is the relationship choice for champions. Choice. You choose accountability.
Will you
So-
repeat that? I'm so sorry.
This is, by the way, this is on page 301 in the
Page-
MREA book. Accountability is the relationship of choice for champions.
Mhm.
Highly successful people embrace accountability. They want accountability. They look for accountability. They don't hide under the covers and go, oh, I don't want to tell anybody what's going on in my life, right?
Mm.
Gary says, so the key to accountability is to select a person, coach, consultant, mentor, or peer partner, or a mastermind group. That's what your ALC is. And then meet on a regularly scheduled basis to review your goals and results. See, you're one of two things. You're either accountable or you're a victim. And it's kind of explained there on page 84. You know, when life happens, you go one of two ways. You either go to the left side where you are ignorant and don't seek reality. You ask no questions. You deny it. You fight reality. That's not the way it is, or it's too hard right now, or I don't have time to think about profit share, or gosh, this committee is a pain, right? You blame, no one's doing their job on my committee, or it's too, you know, there's so many multiple offers showing up out there. There's no way I can get a deal done, right? You make personal excuses, or you just sit back and go, I'm going to wait and hope. Now, the accountable person goes to the right side, seeks reality, says, what's the situation? Acknowledges reality, says, this is the way it is, and I'm going to figure out how to deal with it. Owns the issue, says, okay, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Finds solutions, and then gets on with it. Guys, just like limiting beliefs, we are all going to be in a continual slide between being a victim and being held accountable. We all end up on that victim side. Why do we sometimes end up on the victim side?
Easier.
It's easier. Thank you, whoever said that. 100% right. It's easier. It's easier to blame someone else. It's easier to make excuses than necessarily make the changes that we need to make. This is why being accountable in your ALC meeting, now hopefully some of you have coaches, some of you are, maybe in some sort of a group that holds you accountable, but the ALC is your opportunity to be held accountable at a high level. Gary suggests that every ALC meeting, your production is up on the board next to the goal that you have, so that we know whether you are hitting your goals. And that could make some of you a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not sure whether you've done that in the past, but it's the best thing anyone could do for you. Knowing how many leads you gave your team leaders for your profit share is important. If you go to an ALC meeting and you're going to get a big fat zero up there, aren't you going to scramble an hour before the ALC meeting and come up with a referral, right? And yet it's not about making you feel bad. It's about helping you get what hopefully you want. Accountability, the relationship choice for champions. So I hope that shows you how these 6 personal perspectives are all going to totally play into your experience this year as an ALC. And hopefully it'll show you why the things you're going to be talking about in your individual groups now, and I'm very happy with the way they've put together their packet, is going to tie into all of this. Because at the end of the day, we want the reasons that Gary Keller created the ALC to become a reality in 2021 for West Ashley and for Mount Pleasant. So Mo Anderson says, if you don't get 7 hugs a day, you get weird. Well, in this day of COVID, of course, we don't hug that much. We just do elbow bumps. But as I wrap up and turn it over to your team leaders, I need 7 ahas from what we just talked about for the last hour and 13 minutes, or I'm going to get weird when I go hang out with my husband today. So I don't want to be weird. So I need 7 ahas. Give me 7 ahas. Who wants to give me the first one?
I'll give the first one. Leaders need to be held accountable.
Yeah. Leaders want to be held accountable. I mean, not do they just need, yes. Here's the thing, sweetheart. Everybody needs to be held accountable if they want to hit their goals. Leaders choose to be held accountable. So perfect. Good, good, good. All right, 1. Thank you. Susie.
Greg Flanagan.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Susan. Highly successful people hit ceilings and they need to break through that ceiling also.
And by the way, it's a good thing to hit a ceiling, right? It's a good thing because that means you're going up. By the way, I like your glasses. They look like mine. Anyway, thank you. Good job. Number 3. Now, Susie.
I need to do,
Oh, okay. Susie, go ahead. And
I
then
need to do a better job of reviewing my goals on a more consistent basis as opposed to right year and putting them in a drawer.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Isn't that how we make New Year's resolutions, right? We are so intended. We've got, I'm going to lose 10 pounds this year. And then we put that in a drawer. And then December 31st, we still have that same 10 pounds, right? Yeah, I got it. Good. Okay. Number 4.
Okay. The limiting belief thing, and I guess maybe it's because I'm struggling with that. What do you do? It's what do you do with that limiting belief? You're always going to have them. So don't beat yourself up that you have a limiting belief, but how do you control that limiting belief?
How long do you let that limiting belief stay there without you figuring out? And by the way, you can go to your ALC meeting and say, look, I've got this limited belief about whether or not I can do such and such. Has anybody else experienced this? And what have you done about that? That's a great ALC meeting. Absolutely. Number 5.
That story, I think it was about Joe. Was it Joe? And how that was one of their most prosperous.
Mo Anderson said it was the best ALC meeting she'd ever been to. Absolutely, because our goal is to help every one of our top people on the ALC hit their goals. Absolutely. Good. All right, 2 more, and then I'm off to the races and you're into the fun part of your day. All right, give me 1 more. 2 more.
Moving from E to P requires change.
Yeah, and of course, don't we all love change, right? How are you, my dear? Good. Last but not least, 1 more aha.
We don't want you to leave, Holly, so we're not going to give the last one. We're going to sit here all day.
Listen, I'm excited. In fact, I want to hear how your day goes. I saw Vince's outline. It's going to be an awesome day. It's going to be an awesome day. 1 more aha, and then we're done.
I think that we're gonna have to be a role model.
Right.
Role model.
First, we got to teach you how to speak, John.
Right. If there is no other point I got across to you today, it's that your number 1 responsibility, and it turns into your number 1 opportunity. And you know, how many of y'all have kids? Don't you think about the role? I mean, it's no different. Who chooses to be a mediocre role model with your kids? It's no different here. If you focus on your number 1 responsibility, being a great role model, you will do your market center a huge service. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, my Joe. Thank you, all of you. Have a great day today. Anything else anybody want to add? And then I will sign out and turn you over to the group.
Thank you, Holly.
You bet. Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, team.